What happens when movie studios in the 80s throw logic out the window and imagination straight into orbit? You get flying robots, mutant frogs, punk aliens, and love stories set on collapsing moons. The 80s weren't just wild, they were a fever dream wearing shoulder pads. Some of these films were hits, others crashed gloriously, but all of them redefined. What were they thinking? So buckle up. We're revisiting the most bonkers sci-fi adventures you probably forgot ever existed. Number 1. Battle Beyond the Stars, 1980. Before Star Wars turned sci-fi into a billion-dollar business, Roger Corman asked a simple question. What if we made the Magnificent Seven in space? The answer was Battle Beyond the Stars, a low-budget, high-energy explosion of color chaos and cosmic weirdness. Released in 1980, it became the ultimate so bad it's brilliant space opera, complete with a talking spaceship that looks suspiciously alive and a villain who literally grafts parts of his victims onto himself. The story follows Shad, a humble farm boy played by Richard Thomas, who sets out to recruit a team of misfit warriors to defend his planet from a galactic tyrant. The lineup includes a lizard mercenary, telepathic clones, and a space cowboy who drinks from a flask that doubles as a flamethrower. And yes, George Peppard of A-Team fame plays that cowboy with total sincerity. Despite a tiny budget, the movie's effects were handled by a then unknown James Cameron, who learned tricks here he'd later use in Aliens and The Terminator. The soundtrack, the glow, the overacting. It's all pure 80s energy. It's chaotic, it's heartfelt, and it's impossible to forget once you've seen it. Battle Beyond the Stars didn't win awards, but it earned something better: cult immortality. It's proof that even with no money, no logic, and way too much enthusiasm, you can still make space feel huge and hilariously human. Number 2. Saturn III, 1980. Imagine being trapped on a lonely moon base with Kirk Douglas Farrah Fawcett and a jealous robot with attachment issues. That's Saturn III, one of the strangest love triangle stories ever told in outer space. Released in 1980, it was supposed to be a sleek sci-fi romance. Instead, it became a paranoid fever dream about obsession isolation and what happens when machines get too curious about human emotions. Douglas and Fawcett play two scientists living in isolation, working to solve Earth's food crisis. Enter a deranged visitor from Earth, who brings along his experimental android, Hector, a towering mechanical creation meant to help, not harm. But Hector starts to learn from his unstable creator and fixates on Fawcett's character in ways that spiral completely out of control. The result? A tense, claustrophobic showdown inside a futuristic greenhouse gone mad. Behind the scenes, chaos reigned. The movie lost its original director mid-production budgets, ballooned, and tempers. Flared. Yet visually, Saturn III still looks incredible, filled with glowing corridors, silver suits, and a surreal, dreamlike atmosphere. Critics mocked it as slow and strange, but over time, Saturn III became a fascinating relic of early 80s sci-fi. It captures that moment when filmmakers were torn between thoughtful futurism and total pulp fantasy. Kirk Douglas plays it deadly serious, even as the plot borders on absurdity. If you love stylish oddities that feel like 2001, A Space Odyssey collided with a soap opera. Saturn III is a forgotten gem you need to revisit. Number 3. Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, 1983, long before Guardians of the Galaxy made space misfits cool. Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone gave us a galaxy full of grit, neon, and nonsense. Released in 1983, this wild ride starred Peter Strauss as Wolf, a jaded bounty hunter, crash-landing on a wasteland planet crawling with mutant scavengers and an army of laser-toting lunatics. And tagging along for the adventure, a young Molly Ringwald, years before The Breakfast Club as Nikki, a feisty survivor with a talent for trouble. Together they trek through radioactive deserts, escape mutant bikers, and face off against one of the most gloriously over-the-top villains of the decade, Overdog, half man, half machine, and all nightmare. Overdog rules the wasteland with mechanical claws and booming laughter that sounds straight out of a cartoon. Shot in 3D Space Hunter, promised audiences a full-throttle space western with explosions leaping off the screen. What they got was a delirious mix of Mad Max Flash Gordon and pure imagination. Critics didn't know what to make of it, but kids of the 80s, they loved it. The film's practical effects and matte paintings still hold up, giving it a gritty, lived-in texture that modern CGI can't fake. It's cheesy, clunky, and proud of it. Over time, Space Hunter found its cult audience celebrated not for perfection, but for pure commitment to chaos. If you ever wondered what it'd look like if Saturday morning cartoons made a live-action movie, this is it. It's messy, loud, and gloriously fun, everything we secretly miss about the 80s. Number 4. Liquid Sky, 1982, New York City, early 80s. Punk hair, neon makeup, and music that sounds like alien frequencies. Into that scene dropped Liquid Sky, one of the strangest, most hypnotic sci-fi films ever made. Forget lasers and spaceships. This was an alien invasion, told through mood movement and madness. The film follows Margaret, a struggling model, lost in the chaos of the city's underground art world. One night, a tiny UFO lands on her rooftop. But these extraterrestrials aren't here to destroy the world. They're invisible, curious, and drawn to human energy. Suddenly, people around Margaret start vanishing in mysterious bursts of light, leaving her both frightened and oddly empowered. Directed by Slava Zuckerman, Liquid Sky is equal parts performance art and science fiction experiment. Its visuals are electric fluorescent blues, ultraviolet pinks, and sharp strobe-like editing that feels like a dream bleeding into reality. Every scene pulses with rhythm rebellion and something slightly otherworldly. Shot for next to nothing, it became a cult hit on the midnight circuit, celebrated for its fearless creativity. It tackled identity, fame, and alienation long before big studios dared to. Watching Liquid Sky feels like stepping into another dimension, the one where style, sound, and strangeness take over. It's the kind of film you can't explain. You just experience it and wonder, did that really happen? If you're hunting for something truly unlike anything else from the 80s, Liquid Sky isn't just a movie, it's a transmission from another planet. Number 5. The Ice Pirates, 1984. What if Star Wars had a sense of humor, a disco soundtrack, and a budget smaller than its catering bill? You'd get The Ice Pirates, a wild comedic sci-fi adventure that turned space into a playground of absurdity. Released in 1984, it imagined a galaxy where water, not gold or oil, is the universe's rarest treasure. Jason, a wise-cracking space rogue, played by Robert Urich, leads a ragtag crew of thieves who hijack frozen water shipments from the evil Templars controlling the galaxy. Alongside his loyal sidekick, played by Michael D. Roberts, and a fearless princess with plans of her own, Jason dives into a series of chaotic escapades featuring robot sidekicks, space chases, and one of the weirdest time travel finales ever filmed. The movie is part parody, part swashbuckler, and completely unhinged. It borrows from everything from Mad Max to Buck Rogers and adds a layer of slapstick humor that makes it irresistible. The costumes sparkle, the dialogue crackles, and the energy never dips. Critics at the time didn't know what to do with it. Was it serious? A spoof? A fever dream? But decades later, The Ice Pirates stands tall as a celebration of imagination over logic. It's fast, funny, and fearless in its ridiculousness. Sure, it's campy, but it's also packed with charm and pure creative daring, the kind of movie that could only have been made in the 80s. If you've never seen it, pour yourself a soda, grab some popcorn, and prepare to grin from start to finish. Number 6. Lifeforce, 1985. When the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre decides to make a space epic, you know things are about to get strange. In 1985, Tobe Hooper aimed straight for the stars. With Lifeforce, a film that begins like Alien, but spirals into something utterly unclassifiable, a cosmic fever dream where astronauts discover beauty, horror, and absolute chaos floating through the void. It starts with a British-American space crew investigating Halley's Comet. What they find isn't ice or rock. It's an enormous alien ship filled with mummified bat-like creatures and 3 humanoids encased in glass. Naturally, they bring them back to Earth. And naturally, that turns out to be a terrible idea. The female alien awakens, drains the life energy from everyone she touches, and within hours, London descends into pure pandemonium. Instead of blood, Lifeforce deals in energy. People collapse into dried husks as glowing light beams erupt through the city skyline. There are psychic visions, military quarantines, reanimated bodies, and an unforgettable score by Henry Mancini that makes it all feel like an opera performed at the end of the world. Audiences in 1985 didn't know what to make of it. Was it science fiction? Was it horror? Was it art? The answer was yes to all of it. Critics called it a glorious mess, but over the years, Lifeforce gained cult status for its sheer ambition. Canon Films, the company behind it, became legendary for producing over-the-top hits, and Lifeforce is their crown jewel of chaos. It's loud, unapologetic, and endlessly watchable. If you've ever wanted to see what happens when cosmic horror meets British apocalypse drama, this movie is the wild ride you didn't know you needed. Number 7. Hell Comes to Frogtown, 1988. You think you've seen strange? You haven't met the frog people. In 1988, wrestling superstar Roddy Piper starred in one of the most gleefully absurd sci-fi adventures ever filmed, Hell Comes to Frogtown. It's part action movie, part post-apocalyptic fairy tale, and all chaos. The story unfolds in a radioactive wasteland where humanity has nearly wiped itself out. In the ruins, mutants have risen, and among them are frog-faced warriors ruling their own desert kingdoms. Piper plays Sam Hell, a wandering outlaw, reluctantly recruited for a mission to rescue captured women from the frog's underground fortress. His companions? 2 government agents and a shocking collar that ensures he stays on task. If that sounds ridiculous, it is, and that's the fun of it. The frog makeup effects are surprisingly impressive. The humor is intentionally tongue-in-cheek, and Piper delivers every line with perfect deadpan confidence. It's the kind of film that knows exactly how outrageous it is and leans all the way in. Beneath its madness, Hell Comes to Frogtown hides a surprising layer of satire, mocking the macho heroes of the 80s while celebrating pure imagination. The film's handmade sets, desert battles, and bizarrely catchy dialogue give it the charm of a comic book that came to life. Critics didn't know what to say, but fans adored its spirit. It's campy fearless, and a reminder that the 80s had no creative boundaries whatsoever. Watching it today feels like uncovering a forgotten myth, told through VHS static and neon dust. If there's a film that defines the phrase, "so bad it's brilliant," this might be it. Hell Comes to Frogtown isn't just weird, it's gloriously, courageously weird. Number 8. Repo Man, 1984. Few films capture the punk spirit of the 80s better than Repo Man. Released in 1984, it's the kind of movie that defies description, equal parts sci-fi satire and street poetry. Imagine a world where punk rockers, government agents, and UFOs all crash into each other under the glow of Los Angeles streetlights. That's Repo Man. Emilio Estevez stars as Otto, a disillusioned punk who takes a job repossessing cars. It's boring work until he discovers one vehicle with something strange in the trunk, a glowing secret that everyone from the feds to conspiracy theorists is desperate to find. What follows is a chase across the city that's as philosophical as it is absurd, filled with mysterious briefcases, cosmic coincidences, and conversations about life that somehow make total sense in their madness. Director Alex Cox crafted Repo Man as a rebellious answer to slick Hollywood science fiction. The film's low-budget grit, sharp humor, and punk soundtrack made it an anthem for outsiders. Every character feels slightly unhinged, and every scene hums with the energy of a world that's falling apart, but too cool to notice. It wasn't a box office hit, but over the decades, it became one of the defining cult classics of the 80s. Its dialogue is endlessly quotable, its tone completely unpredictable, and its ending, well, it's pure glowing mystery. Repo Man proved you don't need spaceships or high budgets to make sci-fi feel cosmic. You just need attitude, weird ideas, and a beat-up car with something impossible inside. Number 9. Cherry 2000, 1987. In the dusty future imagined by Cherry 2000, the world has fallen apart, but the 80s dream of romance still lives on, even if it's a little mechanical. Released in 1987, this offbeat gem blends post-apocalyptic adventure with off-kilter humor, creating a film that's half road trip, half sci-fi daydream. The story follows Sam Treadwell, a mild-mannered man whose beloved robotic companion short-circuits during a domestic mishap. Desperate to replace her, he hires a tough-as-nails tracker named E. Johnson, played by a fierce pre-fame Melanie Griffith, to escort him across a lawless desert in search of a rare replacement model known as Cherry 2000. Their journey takes them through Ghost Town's neon ruins and into the territory of lunatic warlords who treat the wasteland like a personal playground. But what starts as a bizarre treasure hunt slowly becomes something more human, a story about connection, courage, and rediscovering what really matters. Visually, Cherry 2000 is stunning. Its blend of red dust, blue skies, and neon relics feels like a dream of the future filtered through an 80s music video. Critics at the time didn't quite get it, calling it too weird for mainstream audiences, but years later, it found its fans, especially among viewers who love their sci-fi sprinkled with satire and heart. The movie's biggest charm lies in its irony. It starts as a story about replacing something artificial, but ends up celebrating authenticity. It's sweet, strange, and smarter than it looks. Cherry 2000 might not have conquered the box office, but in the world of forgotten sci-fi, it reigns supreme as one of the most charmingly peculiar adventures of the decade. Number 10. Night of the Comet, 1984. Bright lights streak across the sky. The world gathers to watch a passing comet. Then silence. When the sun rises, almost everyone is gone. That's the eerie setup for Night of the Comet, a wonderfully weird blend of horror comedy and neon-soaked sci-fi released in 1984. Two sisters, Regina and Samantha, wake up to find Los Angeles eerily empty. The comet has turned most people to dust, leaving behind only a few survivors, and a few who didn't survive completely human. The sisters, armed with confidence and plenty of attitude, must navigate the deserted city, fight off wandering mutants, and maybe still find time to hit them all. What makes Night of the Comet so unique isn't just its story, it's its tone. It balances end-of-the-world dread with bubblegum pop charm. The streets glow with eerie pink skies, the soundtrack hums with synth beats, and the heroines deliver sharp one-liners between moments of genuine tension. Director Tom Eberhardt turned a small budget into a vibrant, post-apocalyptic playground filled with visual flair and humor that never undermines the stakes. The movie became a surprise hit on VHS, adored by fans for its clever twist on the last people on Earth idea. At its heart, Night of the Comet is about resilience, about two sisters standing strong when the world literally disappears. It's funny, stylish, and surprisingly touching. If you grew up in the 80s, this movie is nostalgia in cinematic form. If you didn't, it's a time capsule that proves even the apocalypse can look fabulous under neon lights. Number 11. Enemy Mine, 1985. In a decade filled with wild concepts, Enemy Mine stood out for being both strange and deeply human. Released in 1985, it asked a simple but powerful question. What happens when two sworn enemies are forced to survive together, alone on a hostile alien planet? The film stars Dennis Quaid as Davidge, a hot-headed Earth pilot, locked in an endless intergalactic war against a reptilian species known as the Drax. After both crash during a dogfight, Davidge finds himself stranded with his alien rival played by Louis Gossett Jr. What begins as mutual hatred slowly turns into an unlikely friendship built on survival language and shared humanity. The alien design was impressive for its time. Gossett Jr. wore elaborate prosthetics that made him unrecognizable, yet his performance carried warmth and humor that broke through the makeup. The landscapes were stark, icy, and endless, turning the planet itself into a character lonely, dangerous, and quietly beautiful. Enemy Mine struggled at the box office when it debuted. Critics didn't know how to market a sci-fi film that was more emotional than explosive. But over time, it found a second life as a cult favorite, admired for its sincerity and visual ambition. What makes it bonkers isn't the concept, but the courage to tell a story about compassion in an era obsessed with spectacle. It proved that even in the strangest corners of space, the most alien thing of all might be friendship. Enemy Mine remains one of the rare 80s films that's both heartfelt and hypnotic, a quiet classic disguised as cosmic chaos. Number 12. Metalstorm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, 1983. If Mad Max, Star Wars, and a rock music video all collided, you'd get Metalstorm, The Destruction of Jared Sin. Released in 1983, this 3D sci-fi western was the kind of movie that swung for the stars, even if it didn't quite reach them. The story unfolds on the desert planet of Lemuria, where an evil warlord named Jared Sin plans to enslave the galaxy using a mysterious power crystal. Our hero, a tough intergalactic ranger named Dogen, sets out to stop him battling through mutant raiders, sandstorms, and surreal laser duels. The visuals are a kaleidoscope of red dust and glowing blue beams, pure 80s excess at its finest. Director Charles Band, later known for Trancers and Puppet Master, envisioned Metalstorm as the first chapter of a massive sci-fi saga. It had sequels planned, toy lines, imagined even a comic book tie-in. But when the film hit theaters, audiences were baffled. The 3D effects were dizzying, the dialogue over the top, and the story somehow both simple and confusing at once. Yet, decades later, that's exactly why it's beloved. Metalstorm represents the fearless experimentation of the era. It may not make perfect sense, but it looks incredible doing it. Every explosion, every chase, every glowing crystal screams 80s ambition. It's the kind of movie that could only have existed in that magical moment when filmmakers believed anything was possible if you added enough fog machines and lasers. Metalstorm might not have destroyed Jared Sin's empire, but it built a legend in the hearts of cult film fans everywhere. Number 13, The Hidden, 1987. If you mixed a police thriller with a sci-fi creature flick and cranked it up to pure 80s insanity, you'd get The Hidden. Released in 1987, this movie is part buddy cop story, part alien mayhem, and completely unforgettable. It begins like a standard crime chase. A man robs a bank, crashes his car during a police pursuit, and somehow crawls out burned broken and still grinning. Moments later, he's in the hospital, but before anyone can question him, something horrifying happens. A slimy, glowing life form slithers from his mouth into another person's body, and the crime spree starts all over again. Turns out, the real culprit isn't human at all. It's an alien parasite that hops from one host to another, turning ordinary people into unstoppable criminals who love fast cars, loud music, and chaos. Detective Tom Beck, played by Michael Nouri, is baffled until an FBI agent named Lloyd Gallagher, played by Kyle MacLachlan, shows up hiding a strange secret of his own. The beauty of The Hidden lies in how it blends genres. It's part science fiction, part action, and part dark comedy. One minute, you're watching an alien chase scene through Los Angeles streets. The next, you're laughing at its bizarre sense of humor. The energy never dips, and MacLachlan's quiet, eerie performance gives the film a mysterious edge that still works decades later. Despite being made on a modest budget, The Hidden delivers some of the slickest car stunts and practical effects of the decade. It didn't dominate theaters, but it became an underground sensation on VHS, a word-of-mouth favorite among sci-fi fans who loved their stories, bold, weird, and fast. Today it's hailed as one of the most underrated gems of the 80s, proving once again that the strangest stories often hide in plain sight. The Hidden is chaotic clever, and exactly the kind of sci-fi madness that could only have come from that neon-drenched decade. The 80s were a cinematic experiment. No one could replicate an era where imagination ruled and logic took a backseat to lasers, fog, and fearless creativity. From cosmic cowboys to punk aliens, these films dared to dream louder than their budgets. Which one of these wild rides blew your mind the most? Drop your favorite in the comments, hit subscribe, and stay tuned, because the past is still out there glowing in neon waiting to be rediscovered.